build amazing products, have direct relationships with customers in terms of support and capacity, and be committed to the industry and just be reliable. It's just gotta work.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to HR Tech Trailblazers. My name is Nico Simko. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Claire. Today I'm super excited to have Alex Jekowsky from Sense join us. Alex is a serial entrepreneur. He sold his four-year company a few years ago to Moto Labs and then decided to start Sense. So let's get going. First of all, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start here. You could have started any business in the world. Why did you focus on vertical software for laundromats?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, always great seeing you, and thank you so much for having me. And I think some of the better founding stories in general, but I think the most organic, natural ones is I wasn't looking to start a business necessarily, or I was definitely not looking to start a tech company. My first business was in the higher ed space because I was walking around campuses, saw a bunch of pin boards with the millions of flyers on them, and so I thought that should be digital, and that evolved into my first business, right? So you see a problem, you fall in love with that problem, you're curious about that problem, and you organically want to find a solution. I think it's kind of like a creative kind of engagement and fun thing. And after I sold my last business, you have an earn-out, you're in a corporate environment for the first time, not the startup hustle in that kind of same way. So I thought, if I really believe in the company and was really excited to join Moto, but I felt also that I knew myself enough to know that, I didn't play golf or do the things you're supposed to do when you sell a company and be a corporate person. And so I got to fill my time with something that is going to scratch that kind of creative itch. And so I thought about maybe buying a small business. I looked at, bars and restaurants. I had this whole idea for a Harry Potter theme bar in San Francisco, which at one point I will do. But the deeper I got into hospitality and met enough people who told me bars are maybe not a good investment for you, not just and how quality of life, we'll say it's a little bit of a different story. And long story made not so short, I ended up meeting somebody whose neighbor at their lake house was the president of the Coin Laundry Association in New England and owned 4 laundromats and made a killing. And he said, you should look at buying laundromats in San Francisco and be the laundry guy. So I looked at actually buying laundromats. That's how I got into the industry. I was not born in a dryer, and my parents don't own laundromats. I've got no hero's journey to the industry, which is pretty indicative of most operators in the space. So I just fell in love with the industry overall from a interested investor standpoint. And the deeper I got in it, the more I was like, how the hell do you run these things? Especially if I'm not buying myself a job every single location that I manage. And that turned my curiosity instead of buying stores to maybe building for them.
Did you buy any or no?
So I didn't buy any of them. And one of the reasons was an early advisor told me that when you're supporting small business owners on the tech side, especially ones that hadn't had a lot of institutional technology in front of them, data security, all of those things is, you got to take that to be the utmost importance. And you also want to make sure that your incentives are aligned. And I felt like if I personally owned stores, but also powered a bunch of other people's stores, would they think that, oh, Alex is out here to buy stores and that's why he's doing X? And we've seen, whether that's true or not, we've seen other instances of that in the industry. So we wanted to say, hey, we'll hire operators. We'll, at times, every single Sense employee in the first 45 days has to work the counter at one of our local operators. It's a fireable offense if you don't. You get to expense all your laundry that you send out to any of our customers, and you have to interview 2 operators a quarter, or at least go into stores, so you know what it means to be an owner, an attendant, and a customer. Because in SMBs, like, you got to breathe it, you got to love it, you got to know it. And be dedicated to it.
I love it. So let's talk about the journey to product market fit. You think of like, hey, I want to go into maybe being the San Francisco, laundromat owner. You pivot, you're like, look, actually, you know what? Powering the tech sounds a lot more interesting. You guys have a suite of solutions right now, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Where did the first product strategy emerge, and was it the right one?
Well, whether it was the right one is going to take a couple of years to still figure that out. I mean, so far it's looking like it's right, but I think that in any industry, what we were trying to accomplish, at least for me personally, when I was looking at buying stores, is in the garment care vertical. We started with laundromats. We view the laundry industry with laundromats, dry cleaners, cobblers, industrial cleaners, tailors, the list goes on. We wanted to be the all-in-one solution. Right? That's what everybody says, business in a box, be the all-in-one, centralized, whatever the terminology you want to use. So we were thinking, what is a high sell-through rate product that we can get in front of operators, we can start to build a relationship, and we can touch as many points of the operation of the business as possible. And especially, building the business during COVID, wash and fold and full service laundry was accelerating. And so we realized, okay, well, if we build a point of sale for the wash and fold system, which was largely pen and paper before, then we can, be involved in the payment, as we are a payments fintech business. Be involved in, we know who the customer is, we know who the employee is, right? We have a device and a software that's sitting inside the store, so we can kind of do order management and then operations. And that gave us the ability to actually have a product we could sell, again, at a high sell-through rate, a low implementation cost, and a digital first product to be able to get in front of an operator and build that relationship. With the goal, and realizing that for a laundry business, you have the over-the-counter sales, wash and fold, dry cleaning, inventory, et cetera. You have the machine themselves, you have to pay on the machines. There's online ordering, pickup and delivery, commercial, all huge opportunity. And if you're gonna get in that space, you have to do all of it.
Right.
If you're really gonna do it right. And so start somewhere, and our business has gotten much more hardware heavy from a payments perspective to make sure we can deploy that. But yeah, the POS was the initial product in order for us to deploy the rest. And then obviously once you're powering all the revenue streams, then it's getting to the fun part of helping on operations.
And so for people who don't know the intricacies of POS for a second, are you talking about the POS at the physical, laundry machines? Or are you talking about, the POS when you're getting the coins to then use into the machine? Go a little bit into the detail, because it gets complicated to actually pay those machines. So we'd love to hear from you.
100%. I think that's, when you look at any vertical, and I talked to a ton of vertical SaaS founders, is, the problem you're having to solve, what is the relationship over a point of sale perspective with the customer and the store, and what's the relationship with that order, right? If you go to a coffee shop, you swipe your credit card on a Square reader or something, you pour a cup of coffee, 30 seconds later, your relationship with that order is now over. Mm-hmm. And it is a very kind of simple transaction itself. In laundry, if I bring a bag of clothes, I don't want to do it myself. I go to the laundromat, I put it on a scale, and then based on the weight, the laundromat's going to charge me $1.50 a pound, $1 a pound, $2 a pound, whatever it ends up being. But the order itself isn't just like, okay, I dropped off my bag, I'm done. There are preferences. These are my clothes, and they're actually coming into your store in a different way than they're going to come out, both in the presentation, the quality, the cleanliness, et cetera. So I'm going to pay per pound, and then after I drop it off, the attendant needs to use the right machines, the right detergents, on the right heating temperatures, the right preferences, all that. Is it rocket science? No, but it is nuanced enough, and I say operationally heavy, where a point of sale just to process a payment, sure, but but there's so much more that goes on with a wash and fold order in terms of the processing, or with dry cleaning or anything when it's somebody's actual clothes. Right. So the value of that over-the-counter point of sale system is the operating tracking. When we first launched, we never called it a point of sale. We called it Sense OS, the operating system. And then our marketing team came to us and was like, well, we should probably tell them that what the actual product is than just the marketing of it. But I was, in the beginning, very passionate, being like, point of sale is a feature to an overall solution of real order management. Now, on the machine payments, that's another product that we have where we are psychotic enough to build our own hardware that converts coin-operated laundry equipment to pay by card, pay by phone, pay by loyalty card. That's a fascinating industry and a fascinating business of decoding machines. I did the first installation in Petaluma at the laundry. I mean, there are lots of stories, but to really be a partner to a small business owner, you can't say, great, for your wash and fold orders, I got you. For everything else, you're gonna have to go figure that out with other vendors, and sure, we'll do some integrations. We wanted to centralize and build the best in class for somebody to be able to buy a store, buy their machines from their distributor, and buy Sense, and then they're off to the races.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about the pain points that a laundromat owner or manager faces. Can you break those down? Because they probably are correlated to what products you're going to build first and where you're going to expand.
A laundromat owner or any small business owner, any operator in general, you and me, it first starts off with what kind of business do you want to build? And what are your goals, right? Some people just want to buy a couple stores, have some cash flow so they can go on vacation, but they have a full-time job, a full-time career, and they never want to change that. Some people want to get to 100 plus laundromats and they want to do it themselves, or they want to raise money. Some people want to get to 10 and flip it. So, the pain points are different at different scales and different goals, but I think in general, the pain points that you have are data and just overall tracking. You have, you could buy the most expensive commercial laundry machine on the planet for your laundromat, and it has a coin box. So one, you're dealing with a lot of cash, a lot of coin, whether you want it or not, whether you think it's great for your consumers or not, that's what's coming stock. And so from a technology perspective, people want to have an alternative to coin. They want to take cash in a kiosk. They want some modern payment system, whether it's alongside a coin box or fully replacing it. So data tracking on your revenues to be able to know what's actually happening in your store. So first you got to answer like, what's happening? Okay. Then the bigger answer and how you scale is why it's happening, right? And so again, stripping it down to answer your question more directly, it's like tracking of what's going on in my store, making sure my labor is efficient as possible, making sure I know who my customer is, what their experience is like, what's my retention, all of that kind of stuff. And good software can help manage your payments, can help make the employee and employment experience better inside of a store, make the customer experience better in the store, because on average, what an operator wants is to own as many laundromats as possible while doing the least amount of work. They want to go golf. They want to be on the beach. They don't want to be in their store 24/7. So good software can help them do more, with less.
Absolutely. So a lot of the listeners of this podcast are product managers at payroll companies. Talk a little bit about the complexities of managing employees for laundromat owners, laundromat managers, because it's such a specific, potentially compensation structure, hours worked, deadlines, and it's an operationally heavy business. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, on face value, to me, working at a laundromat should be the best gig ever, right? You're not slaving over a stove and having tons of customers coming and being, either really nice or maybe not so nice. It can be a really nice autonomous role and something where anybody on the labor scale can be successful at it. I think the challenge for most small business owners in retaining their labor and managing it is like, what kind of culture are you actually building? These are super, super important places within a community, and both elevating their community, both in the quality of the store and the experience that a customer has. And the employee is the frontline worker. The employee is delivering the experience in the store. If you look on Google, a lot of the Google reviews, positive or negative, is it clean? Are the machines nice and new? And how was my experience dealing with the employee? And so, what we try to do, and I think that you have to earn the right to do it by building all the products that we've built and building the relationship with the operators that we have, is look for ways to make the laundromat the best place to work. How do we make it most competitive to any of the QSRs, to any other similar kind of business to get the best quality talent? And quality doesn't mean resume and where they came from. Quality just means, are you able to deliver an experience that they're happy when they wake up in the morning and go to that store?
What is the traditional role? For example, at a coffee shop, it's the barista receiving orders and making coffee, right? Maybe break down for people who don't know how laundromats kind of operate. What is the categories of workers? What do they do, and how do managers attract and retain that talent?
For sure. If it's a full service laundromat, they do wash and fold, they do self-serve, all of that. You have your hourly worker that's in the store. They're responsible for cleaning the machines, helping customer support if people have questions on a machine or how to use a payment system, things like that. And then they're also processing wash and fold.
Okay.
Right? That means orders come in, there are a bunch of bags, they got to put it in the machine, the washers, put it in the dryers, fold it, package it nicely, ready for that customer to pick it up. If it's a self-serve only store and you're not doing any wash and fold, you're just really doing customer support, making sure it's clean, the lint traps are clean, so you're avoiding dryer fires, things like that. So it's usually an hourly wage, but something that's gotten more popular is actually giving a commission to the attendants per pound that they fold, right? So pounds per hour is a metric that a lot of operators will use to track the quality of their labor, but also to give those commissions to get more buy-in from the attendants, because it's hard to compete. If you can't pay at the highest rate or above minimum wage or things like that, you're willing to give some of the commission up versus having a higher fixed cost, because everything you're trying to do is track your margin. You can add 5 cents a pound to offer that kind of commission. And then managers themselves, so you have the in-store attendants, and then a manager will usually be a salary worker to manage that staff, but they'll also play the role of a staff, kind of a player coach experience. A lot of the hiring happens from customers in the store. Right? If a customer has a great experience in the store, then that's who they're going to go after from a hiring perspective. That's where we see to be the highest retention standpoint. Sometimes some people—
I've never heard that before, hiring your customers as the people to work.
Yeah, because they're already coming in, doing a lot of wash and fold. themselves
by doing,
and they know how the machines work, and they're coming to that store all the time anyway. And if they can actually make money by doing their clothes and now other people's at the same time. But the profile of attendance is all over the place. We have people in their 70s and maybe even early 80s. I've met some attendants who have been at that store for 15 or 20 years. And then you have, people that are at night school getting a law degree and also working at the laundromat. It really depends, but usually the quality of the store, the technology, the experience is what's going to enable you to get a whole different range of profile of labor.
So let's go back to maybe something you talked about at the beginning. You said, we started selling this as Sense OS because we didn't want to be restricted to point of sale. I think we're tying it back here, which is talk a little bit about the products you started building to really make Sense completely sticky, and something that any operator wants to talk to their colleagues or somebody else running it, being like, you have to sign up for Sense, because that's probably how you really found explosive product market fit, which you guys now have. It's by creating this love with customers. So talk a little bit about adjacency to point of sale.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, the first feature we built when we launched a point of sale was just tasks. On the side of our point of sale was just tasks by shift and by location and by day. Right? Very, very simple, but the fact that we could replace the whiteboards for operators with their attendants and actually track what the attendants are doing and have just a checklist of the things that they need to get done. First thing we built 4 years ago, but ended up being a hugely used feature and something that stores will say all the time how their attendants, it's a game changer. So it's interesting how the tiniest little feature in the initial POS, OS functionality can carry so much weight. But over time, once you're powering all the different revenue streams and the baseline of the business, we just launched today our insurance product that we partnered with a company to kind of create embedded insurance where you can opt in, utilize the data to KYC your business to an insurance broker and save 15 to 20%, right? Wow. We launched a phone system because we know where orders are, where a driver is, we know your card balance on your loyalty card, we know what employees in which store, we know how busy the machines are, so you can call a store, not have to deal with an employee, or vice versa, the employee doesn't have to deal with the customer. And some of those recorded calls that we get sent by our operators, some customers are pretty brutal. So for the employee experience, to not have to actually be the first line of defense on that is pretty meaningful.
Yeah.
But because of the integration across that operating system, a phone product, an insurance product, the commercial invoicing management and AR product, our website integration and chatbots, all of these additional things that we've built, standalone as point solutions, not a huge amount of value, right?
So on that note, like, I assume that laundromats are typically, as you mentioned, like small businesses. How do you, and maybe you can talk about your market share, how did you reach high market share so quickly? Because you've only really started this in 2020, 2021. So it's only been a few years.
Yeah, I mean, 15% of US laundromats, close to 4,000 locations now, is definitely sizable in a short amount of time. I think a lot of startups want to be that revolution, that change maker, move quickly and break shit kind of thing. For us, it's like, make it simple, make it work, make it reliable, and be transparent in the relationships you have with small business owners and be really, genuine in that. That's what is the flywheel. That's what the word of mouth is, because for any small business owner, if their business is going to be powered by you, if their employees are going to be using your system all the time, that's a huge investment for them. Not just on a dollar amount, but huge risk, a huge risk. And so early days, it's a lot of like, believe in us. We promise we'll take you there. And that's what a ton of companies in this industry. We're the only really venture-backed one, but the only one that has survived in doing what we're doing. Small business owners in our space have been sold the moon many, many times.
Yes.
And so over the last 4 years, we've acquired 2 companies that we felt like were the best in class of what they did, but had the same ethos and the same, I'd say, value base of build amazing products, have direct relationships with customers in terms of support and capacity, and be committed to the industry and just be reliable. It's gotta freaking work. I mean, that is, so many people forget that you can put out any flashy, cool feature you want. If the core product doesn't work and you haven't focused enough on core, who cares? You have no right to do all the other things. Those are the tenets that for us have enabled us to not just grow at the clip we have, but last year we had sub 1% churn. I mean, that's pretty rare for SMB kind of products. And I think the value base actually goes a lot further than a lot of people think.
Talk to me a little bit about the wish list from your customers when something that they're hoping you have, but you currently don't offer.
Well, I'd say, and I'm not just saying this because this is HR tech and all that other stuff, but the thing that no tech company has really been able to solve is labor. That is, on the cover of Planet Laundry, I don't know, sometime last year, was a giant help wanted sign. For example, Wash and Fold, which was our initial product for point of sale for that, and full service laundry, some operators just wouldn't offer it. It's good revenue growth for them. There's a huge opportunity. They just don't want to deal with the labor because managing it is so challenging. Retaining it is so challenging. So they leave money on the table just because they don't know how to manage the labor. And I think we are trying to build more products, embedded payroll and incentive-based tracking systems and other gamification. But labor is the one of the main pain points of scale. And managing and creating, again, that culture, that infrastructure, the right incentive base, the right payment model, the right visibility into what's actually happening in the store. And that hasn't really been possible until our product line has reached the market. And so now it's, what can we do right to solve those problems?
Yeah, I have to ask you a very selfish question, but how does, on-demand pay fit within that strategy?
I'll say candidly, when we first brought it up to operators, and this will get you a sense of how I think a lot of SMBs think, the first thought in their mind is, what's my risk? Right? What do I have to front? What's going to change? They're going to get paid today and not show up tomorrow, right? That is the mindset of some of these small business owners, because some have taken a mortgage in their house to pay for their laundromat. They have a great business and they're worried that if they change, something's going to happen. Yeah. So they don't always look at change or something different as opportunity. Over time, the sentiment of the overall industry has changed so much because they're seeing what every other vertical is experiencing. Now they're looking for every possible thing that can, one, keep them as competitive to the other local provider that's offering immediate access to wage. And so it is super high on our radar, and we're seeing more and more operators are coming to us all the time asking, what are the tools that we can provide? And immediate access to wage is a huge, huge value prop for the attendants and the operators in the stores.
I love it. All right, maybe to wrap it up, I want to go to this idea of SenseOS because, I've been a huge fan since the beginning. You guys have now raised about a little bit over $70 million. You've made 2 acquisitions. You are at 15% market share. What does Sense look like in 2030?
Oh, it's a great question. Look, our vision is to power laundry day in America through the SMBs, always through the operators. Everything we do is the local operator, and I hope that that's both in the laundromat space, and we're looking at broader garment care. How do we have America's laundry? Everybody here should be sending out their laundry. They shouldn't be doing it themselves in their home. And great access to technology, great end user experiences. How do we create the best experience so when you go home, you're like, damn, laundry day does kind of suck for me. I'd rather just send it out if I could and make it easy. So we want to grow the volume of our operators and really power laundry day. So I think that's creating the best infrastructure, the best operating infrastructure, so operators can buy more stores in more states while not having to actually physically be there. And then step 2 is build incredible products for the in-store attendants so you can scale easily. They want to show up for work, they want to refer their friends to the business, and then build the best possible products for consumers. And then in 2030, laundry day in America is going through SMBs, and that at least a hell of a lot of it.
I love it. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.